then you had to go. Something I should have told you, that I'd be here for you to come back home.
These kupuna long ago have been taken away and now are in these institutions, museums, universities, and need to come home.
Malama kupuna ana, oe ka menoi.
Now will you come back to me, come back home?
In 1988, Hui Malama and Kupuno Hawaiʻi first came together in response to the gross exhumation of approximately 1,100 sets of iwi kupuna from a place on Maui called Honokahua.
You could feel the ue. The ue over there was horrible because the sand dunes are just cut like in blocks like that, and you can see them poking out, and it just was. You can tell how ancient they were too because the stones that were packed on each other, the ili, and that was a disturbing time.
You've taken our spirit away. What more you want?
And I think that was the beginning of this whole, awareness, whole.
Hui Malama was established by Edward and Pualani Kanahele and was intended to be a cultural response to this problem of disinterment of ancestral Hawaiian burial sites.
I lived in Maui at that time. I was teaching at Maui Community College, and that's why I became involved with the Honokahua. So I came home and mentioned it to Edward. And he was obviously disturbed by it, more so than he let me on to believe.
Because of you, our Hawaiian people, that things go forward.
And then it took on a life of its own, the whole movement on reinterment and disinterment, and people rebelling against the whole project that was going on over there.
Today, they don't touch our bones anymore. The digging is stopped.
That was our initial drive to get them back in the ground.
You guys have a lot of mana.
As events unfold, we start learning more and more that the problem goes beyond protecting burials that are still in place. We start realizing that shells at museums, state agencies, universities in the United States are stocked with ancestral Hawaiian remains.
This is a way of collecting and a way of viewing humankind that we find abhorrent today. But this is the legacy that we've inherited from our predecessors, a legacy of a particular sort of prejudice of white Europeans towards the rest of the world.
And so there's a push to work at the national level to get legislation passed.
Fresh out of law school and working for Hawaii's senior senator, Daniel K. Inouye, Halealoha was destined to heed the call and help right these wrongs. From helping with the United States federal legislation on the repatriation and protection of iwi kupuna, or native remains, to later leading the organization named in the legislation that would champion the cause for Native Hawaiians, Halealoha joined a core group of Hui Malama members who dedicated their lives to caring for iwi kupuna. After the repatriation of over 6,000 sets of iwi kupuna from some 60 different museums, institutions, and agencies around the world, the team set out once again on a journey 7,000 miles from home for one of Hui Malama's final repatriations as an organization and the return of over 140 sets of iwi kupuna.
The feeling is really excitement, happiness, maybe a little anxiety. And the anxiety comes from the first interaction we'll have with these kupuna, and hoping that that all goes well so that there's a level of trust in us and in our abilities to bring them home and bring them home safely and recommit them to the Aina.
It was 30 years of persistent communication with the London Natural History Museum, faith that these iwi kupuna would one day return to Hawaii, and the evolution of what is and is no longer acceptable in the name of science that all led to this long-awaited victory.
I don't know what happened internally in the Natural History Museum. I suspect it has to do with attrition, with the retirement of certain folks. But the museum made a decision to create the Human Remains Unit, and they hired Dr. Margaret Clegg to run it. All of a sudden now we can have a dialogue.
We're probably the National Museum with the largest human remains collection, where we have updated the Code of Conduct and our Code of Ethics to reflect a more modern view of how we need to interact, not only with the remains themselves, but with the people who those remains are ancestral.
We can continue that effort to gain scientific and cultural knowledge through the relationships. The Repatriation Act isn't the end of program of knowledge making. In some ways it's the beginning.
That's the true positive of repatriation. It's because it's strengthening relationships between human beings so that we're focusing on our similarities instead of our differences.
This has been the very first time we've had a community come and actually do the packing, and I think it was a very moving experience. And I also was very impressed with the way in which people actually dealt with something which for most of them was obviously quite a traumatic experience, but they actually dealt with it in a really, really wonderful way.
This is about returning to who we are. And no different than how we would behave if we were visiting someone we didn't know. We would introduce ourselves. We would say what family we come from.
Well, it was important for them to hear, the first words that, ingredients were in Hawaiian, and hearing these chants and this pule that addressed, them in particular to help us, help you to come home.
So at that spiritual level, it's no different. And so that's what one level of the protocol was intended to introduce ourselves to these kupuna and to announce our intentions so that they were very clear on why we were here. We were here to care for them and to take them home.
Helping to prepare the iwi kupuna for their journey home was just what these Hui Malama members had been trained to do, both physically and spiritually.
One intent in putting Hui Malama together was teaching them how to protect themselves, how to wrap, how to cleanse themselves.
Hili na ika na au meka ike pili me te lolo a pela kuinale a o ia ke lama me e kolu a ho hana ke lano ke ko ana o ko ala hele ai pa kiki o ia kana ni o ka Hawaii a ole no ka ole ale ka logic vale no a ole ka emotion vale no lo ana me a pau no ka ho holo ana ka uhane ka ike a me ke aloha na me e kolu o ia ke kumu na ni ka ko ka Hawaii. hana ino ia a waio ia ma kea waio meha hoi.
The power of pule is wonderful. It's brilliant, actually. We took it very serious because you have to be respectful. Every move is being respectful. You cannot just hanaino or you'll be kapulu. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. You're not thinking about, oh, what happened, or giggling and laughing. You have to stay focused because the kupuna are right there, face to face, and they're looking, things can come back on you. I mean, we don't really put that out, but it does happen. It does, seriously.
And Ipo is intimately familiar with this, having been involved in the movement for over 30 years.
Ipo's very unique in that in the last 20 years, whenever we were faced with very serious, what I would call serious spiritual situations, Ipo has the unique skill to connect to and see that other side. We relied heavily on her, and I think if we had to do it all over again, maybe we would not have relied on her so much, because there's a price to pay for this. But it was critical that she be on this trip.
It was a test for us, and I said, no, we have to go. We have to go on this journey because we were committed. Because we don't like to travel without each other too, yeah. It's just like, we're so pili, yeah. And it's a balance. You gotta malama each other.
Sticking together and supporting one another has been critical to the overall success of Hui Malama, as they have worked to reintroduce this traditional practice of caring for iwi kupuna despite pushback, even at times from the Hawaiian community.
Initially, people didn't believe in it, and so, we had a lot of problems with people saying, have I. And so, when you're doing something that's kind of new and has been done for a long time, especially when you're dealing with the dead, people are afraid of it. And initially, that's what happened, but eventually people say, oh no, this is good. We need to bring them home, and it's good.
And now, this change in thinking is most evident in a new generation of Native Hawaiians and their understanding of this simple concept of caring for kupuna.
O ka malama kupuna, a'ole pa'akela ia mākou ka wā kauni. Ali maupopo he kupuna ke kai, he kupuna ka aina, he kupuna na kumula'au. A'ole pa'a ia ia'u. A me ko hanauna paha. Aka I ka hanauna ho ka umau keiki. I ke lau I ka aina, a hana ino lau I ka aina, nuku ino ia. Me he mea la, o hana ino o I ka iatutu. Pa'a I loko o lako ka umau keiki. A me na ohana keiki a pe lako. He kupuna ke ia.
Yes, I'm hopeful. I look at the opio of today and I mean, it blew me away. We're growing opio today that are stronger than we were at their age, way stronger. And we're offering them a better Hawaii than what we stepped into when they were that age. So how could they not take things to a better place? I can't imagine anything but that.
We're hoping that in the idea of traditions, that people will take on their own kuleana of their own moe'uhane, or their own ancestors.
Hele a ka maina me ko ohana, a me ko aina. Hele a ka maina, mai makau I ke la. Mai ko wahi kiko I, ke one hanao, ai ka pai aina. He pilina ko me ka honua Hawaii. Na hoa'o nui o e ho'opili ia oe I loko o ke la. E olelo ana ke kupuna ia oe. E alaka ia na lako ia oe. Oe ka mea nui no'u. O ka malama kupuna ana oe ka mea nui. Ma ke ano he iwi, ma ke ano he aina, ma ke ano he kino kanaka, oia ka mea nui. A ohe o koa o ke lama mea a pau.
You know, the work of Hui Malama is done.
Hui Malama is just it's an organization, it's a non-profit, it's really insignificant. The significance is the values and the training that we have, and that kuleana transcends, that will never end.
That's the way that Ed and Pua projected it, and once that level built up and that confidence within the Hawaiian community, then it's time for, Hui Malama just step back.
I think of all of the Hawaiian practices, traditions that I've been in, Hui Malama has been the one that I think has caused most grief. It's been that kind of battle for me. It's a reminder of who my husband was and what he stood for and what he was adamant about. It's a tradition that I'm handing off to my children. This tradition has begun now, and it's begun now because they stood in front of us and say, here we are. All of these boxes, we're in these boxes. Take us back.
Come back home. Some people say that home is where the heart is, but my heart's on the run, being chased down by the sun, spirits of the ocean, trades and currents call. It was time to set you free. Now will you come back to me? Come back home. Across the sea, all alone, away from me, away from home, home. Home is in the east, the west is just direction, but everything plays a part to your return back to the start. But will you be the same? Will your eyes still miss me? Will the songs of old seem new to you? Will you know that I've missed you too? Come back home. Across the sea, all alone, away from me, away from home, home. When you had to go, something I should have told you, that I'd be here for you, I'd be right here for you to come back home, come back home, come back home.